guys, thanks for coming out. We're here with Ryan McMahon, and we kind of just want to talk about what CNY has to offer, a little bit about you, talk about the aquarium, the big project that you're working on right now. So we did kind of already just get into the aquarium and some of the logistics of it, but for you, why are you so passionate about it? What's your main drive?
So when we looked at essentially this unique opportunity that we have right now in county government, my administration during, of course, in 2020 and 2021 during the pandemic, we operated just like you, like a business. And when we saw our revenues collapse and 40% sales tax hits in 2020, we started making very difficult decisions. And we planned for the worst in both fiscal years, mid-year 2020. And then the worst didn't really happen in 2020. It was bad and it was brutal, but the sales tax, we got restaurants open again, we got the economy going again. And so sales tax went from being off 40% to being off about 5%. So we ended the year with this fiscal surplus of about $30 million, which is the largest the county's ever had, because of the decisions we made. They were difficult. At the same time, we're going to phase 2 of COVID. Remember, it was really bad at Halloween, Thanksgiving in 2020, and that led into our worst part of the whole pandemic. That's when we were doing our budget for 2021, it's during that time. So in my head, I'm thinking, Governor Cuomo shut down the economy when we had 40 cases a day. Now we're having 500 cases a day. Our hospitals truly are almost bursting at the seams here. So we have to plan for the worst, and we did. And again, the worst didn't happen. We were able to grind through it, kept things going. And so we had, in 2021, a huge surplus because of that, because we did a bare bones budget and essentially about $100 million surplus. And on the American Rescue Plan, we have this unique moment in time to really kind of not just recover from the pandemic, but really take advantage of post-pandemic opportunities. And so when we look at that, when we talk about recovery and take advantage of that, you look at recovery from the standpoint of human capital, our people, and some of the issues that have emerged because of the COVID, when you're talking about mental health, when you're talking about opioids, when you're talking about suicide, some of the rising crime in certain areas is absolutely pandemic related as well. But you also have to talk about the economic clusters in your community that are suffering. And so when we look at our hospitality industry, unemployment is at 10% right now. Every other industry is at about half of that, about 5.5. And our philosophy is to have long-term sustainability to try to bring more people into the community. That's what's going to help the hospitality industry. Short-term capital is good. The federal government did some of that. The state government's done some of that. That's not our role in county government. We run government on sales tax. And so when we make investments, it's important that we get people spending money. So we looked at the Aquarium plan, which was pitched to me when I became county executive, and certainly by the Friends of the Zoo, in the zoo. And we have one of the best zoos in the country, as we all know. And so this was kind of the next step that they wanted to do. The problem was we never had, to go bond $85 million. Your business model is going to be tough, right? You're not going to generate enough revenue to offset that. So it's a tougher case to make to the legislature. So we had the cash to do that. And so we put forward a comprehensive plan with various initiatives to help people recover, to modernize infrastructure, and then to help the industries that have been hit the hardest, specifically our hospitality and tourism industry. So the aquarium, what we really like about it are really a couple of things. One, just that, it's going to bring more people. It's going to bring thousands and thousands of visitors. It's going to create at least a $50 million economic impact yearly. It will create more jobs, will create about 400 permanent jobs, bring more room nights into the community. And so that's important. From a stimulus standpoint, it's going to create about 400 construction jobs for about a year. These are good paying construction jobs. But some of the other really interesting components are, we talked a little bit about the educational component, is this falls right into our strategy for STEM and STEAM. It will allow us to really continue the work we've done with the cleanup of Onondaga Lake and its tributaries, the Inner Harbor being one of them. And it will provide a lot of different curriculum opportunities and experience quality life opportunities for kids. How many kids anywhere in the county, no matter what your financial background, actually get to go see an aquarium. Not many, let alone some of our poorest kids.
Yeah, the closest one has to be Boston, right?
If you look at any good one, Boston,
okay. Yeah.
And in addition to that, we think this will be a catalyst to really drive that neighborhood, Indiana Harbor, more development there. Look at the Loop to Lake Charles, the park system. You look at Destiny's there, this will help support Destiny. Certainly, the MET Bank Stadium, where we just invested $25 million in improvements. You have the regional market there. There's a lot, the lakefront's quickly becoming kind of the epicenter of recreational and leisure activity. So there is a lot of really, really good things. And before in this debate, it was kind of go spend the money on this, not that. But because of the resources that we have, this isn't an either or situation. Like, we're not going to pick winners and losers. We can invest more money into early childhood education. We can invest more money into mental health. We have mental health clinics in all of our schools now. We can tackle the opioid crisis like we are. We can invest more in specific programming for single mothers who are in generational poverty like we are. We're not doing that. We can do it all, but you can't have a recovery and ignore the economic segment with hospitality.
My thought on this was that you have to have ROI. So it's great to give to social programs, but I'm not saying there's no ROI to it. There is personal ROI, but there's no economic ROI by giving to a charity. By giving here, you generate revenue. That revenue can now be distributed and help child learning or help give here or donate to that little community because it's generating revenue. When Isabel and them had brought this to me, my son and I travel a lot. The fact that when he was, how old are your kids?
14, 12, and 5.
14, good age. So a boy. So
boy, girl, boy.
Boy, girl, boy. So we have an only, Zach, when he was like 14, to stay bonded with him, we would pick a city. Thursday to Sunday we would go. Just pick a city, try to catch a baseball game, try to catch a basketball game. We'd always get on the internet and you Google best chicken wings, best pizza, what are they known for, and then we go to the biggest dive bar in that town. And it was cool. It got us a chance to bond. We've probably been to 25 cities. And when you look at what to do, what do you do in Minneapolis? Well, there's cool shit to do. What do you do in Providence, Rhode Island? When you Google what to do in Rochester, go to Strong Museum. What do you do in Buffalo? What's the number one thing to do in Buffalo, right? Go check out Niagara Falls, go to Anchor Bar, whatever. When you Google what to do in Syracuse, you know what the number one thing is? Go to the fucking mall. That's sad, man. When our best, no offense to the county, I know it's your county as much as ours, but when the best thing we got is to go to a mall, we need better, man. We need better. That's not driving people to our community.
Really, if you think about it too, from a leisure standpoint, we're kind of a leisure stay destination. Certainly in the summer and the fall, there's not a better place in the world than Onondaga County and Central New York in the fall.
Right.
But during the winter, you don't have much to sell, right?
Yeah.
So this is a year-round facility where Danny Lee K Visit Syracuse can sell. That brings in more connections. In addition to that, the amphitheater, I was on the legislature when we did the amphitheater. Much more controversial than this. It was going to be operating for 3 or 4 months a year. Business model was a lot harder. The amphitheater has been a success on every front. It's making money. There's a reserve account that was set up to deal with capital down the road. It's got $5 million in it. It gets the Tier 1 Act, so it keeps people here. It's something to do on the lake. So it's kind of, this is a similar project that's out of the box, and sometimes in our town we don't give ourselves enough credit. If you want to be a growing community, you got to act like it, and we are growing. But the other thing is, we've been in the hunt for a huge semiconductor project out of Florida, right? And we've been dealing with some of the greatest executives in the world with technology companies, names that everybody knows. We've met with them. We've had them here. They really like our community. But one of the things they ask and they challenge us on are, what am I going to do? How am I going to retain talent?
Really?
How am I going to recruit from Purdue?
That makes sense.
How am I going to
never
recruit
thought
from
of that.
Rutgers? To come here? Because if I have to hire 5,000 engineers to come to this project, what are they going to do? And so I've shown them this project.
Wow, that's interesting. I wouldn't have
Well,
thought.
I think when you're recruiting other people to come into the county and everything, that includes families, and you need to show, like, this is what you can do with your kids.
Yep.
I mean, I love it. I totally agree. I think that in the summer and the fall, and even in the spring, there's nowhere I would rather be, but the winter months are tough. Yeah, especially with kids. I mean, finally it's sunny out, but coming out of that, like in March when it's just snowy, you've been in the house. Oh, yeah. So, I definitely think I mean, like we talked about before, I've been to aquariums all over the country. I think it will be a great draw. I do think it's hard for people to see, you know, we're still recovering from a pandemic, so that immediate, you know, need for recovery and assistance. It's hard to see past that, but in the aquarium, it's something that you see past. It's like a future return, I guess. So I could understand how people would be a
Well, I
little
like what
bit.
you had said when I brought it up to Michelle about
Yeah.
getting people to sign a petition. She asked, and we answered it earlier, is what are you gonna do for the people in the community that live there, that we can't afford to go to the aquarium? And you were talking about how there's a setup for that, right?
Yeah, if you look at what we want to do, we want to take the naming rights. We have people who've already reached out to us who want to participate in this. And we would use that to subsidize costs for school-age children, right? We want our kids to go and see that. You know, we spend a lot of time dealing with poverty in kind of that's kind of what we do. We take care of our community's most vulnerable, you know, our seniors, our kids, and our poor. And we dedicate, one of the things that chaps me a little bit too, is in our budget, we have a $1.4 billion budget, we spend about probably $900 million on poverty-driven initiatives.
Wow.
And so when you look at all of our departments and stuff, so when people are suggest that we don't do that, they're just speaking from a place of you know, some ignorance in a way. And so, but the key, this is the bottom line thought, is we know that there's barriers for child poverty rates have nothing to do with the kids, that's to do with the adults. And we can remove every barrier to employment for an adult, and we're working on that. We can make sure they have transportation. We put in a program in the state of county we talked about where we increased the eligibility for childcare, big time, right?
Big time.
Big time.
It went like 20,000.
300% of the median income, right? So, so then in addition to that, we lowered the share of the parents from what could have been $12,000 a year to $300 a year. Then we increased eligibility, so anybody who's going to college today, they couldn't qualify, working a job, going to college, and now they can. With the child care providers, we're allowing sick days. We're paying them for sick days so that the infrastructure is there, so that there's enough daycare slots. We can remove that barrier. We can train this adult for the workforce, for the jobs that are here, whether it's a nurse, whether it's going to work at the new Amazon warehouse, whatever it is. We can do all that, but if there's not a job at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Why is
Can I ask about the childcare though? Because I feel like when I look at this industry and I think about my employees and the childcare that I had to look for my son, is that majority is from 9 to 5. But my staff works from 4 to 11.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like when I worked 4 to 11 and I first had my son, there's very limited for around the clock daycare services. Is that something that moving forward, we can like expect to see? Because I know that if you can get a job from 2 to 11 or 4 to 11 or whatever it is, but there's nowhere for your kids to go during that time, especially if you don't have a strong support system, it's hard. I mean,
it is, and our child care providers are a lot like the hospitality industry, related to workforce, right? So the reality is everybody's still having a hard time getting staff back up. But what this does is, it gives more customers that can now really afford it, so that more people can look into that. And that will give the Child Care Connections, some of our partners, the ability to do exactly what you're suggesting.
right.
And provide, it's a business opportunity, right? So at the same time, and we think they'll do that. Part of our work with the Early Childhood Alliance is this, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just doing the work with the little ones and getting the kids kindergarten ready. It's recognizing that we need more child care slots and we need good child care providers, because those little people are going to be with these people all day long, and they can't just be sitting there all day long, right? But that's the key thing.
Why doesn't that get as much press as and it kind of segues into, I don't know how how Ben, how some of these people, how do you deal every day, you get up in the morning and off your pillow with all the trolls out there, they had nothing better to do than just blast you. This person is blasting you because they don't want to spend $80 million on the aquarium. I didn't know all those things were happening.
Yeah.
I didn't know we spent 90% of our budget on stuff, helping people.
I think that
What do you do?
it's a big ticket item, so that's the first thing people
Yeah.
say, and they're like, oh my God, we have so many other problems, but it's kind of like you said.
Yeah, and so it's just, we always bring it back down, because nothing bothers me more than, like, some dude wrote a letter to the editor today saying, invest in child poverty programs, not the aquarium. And it's like, you gotta be kidding me, bro. And so look, people are busy, and people all have lives, and they're busy. And in our role in government, nobody ever calls you and tells you, you like the proposal, right? Because they like it. They hear about it, they like it, they move on with their day. Now, we're all people. When we don't like something, we don't like it. It festers with us. You're more likely to like bark on social media when you're having a bad day. So you hear from these people, but you don't hear from regular folks. It's a good idea, and regular folks are like, yeah, we should put more money into housing. Yeah, we should. Yeah, I like the aquarium. We should do that. We're at a point now where we put out plans where we understand what our problems are in the community. County government has a specific role for that. There's certain things that we don't do and never will do because it's not our job. It's the state governments or the federal governments or the city governments. But even into some of the areas that traditionally we aren't involved in, right now, we acknowledge that's an issue and we're putting resources behind it. So it's not an either or situation. But at the end of the day, the way to get people out of poverty is a job. This project creates sustainable jobs. With all the other pluses, that alone.
Well, I think that helps. We talk about mental health. Having a job, having a paycheck helps mental health because you're not sitting alone in front of the TV like people were doing this whole thing, watching Netflix and overthinking their whole life, and that's challenging. So give somebody a purpose.
Look, you need a job for so many different reasons. That dignity of a paycheck is something that everybody has, but certainly all these things are all connected, right? All these issues are all connected. And if you have a problem, at one point it's going to create other problems down the road.
I know you only got a couple minutes left, so one, I know everybody I talked to that said you're coming. I don't know a restaurant owner that I work with or that Michelle knows that isn't like overly thankful for everything you did to help us during this. It's been amazing. It's been amazing. So that was my first question was, I know that you went back to you were back in Lemoyne, you're a sophomore, you're maybe having a beer with Jimmy Delia, shout out to Jimmy. And did you say then, I want to be the county exec?
No.
Because did you work for a linen company? I was supposed to be able to tell you. I was going to bring a linen bill and have you rip it apart and tell me what you could say.
So you're, when I was in my senior year, actually my junior year, I went and did an internship in Albany in the assembly. And at that point, I spent a semester there. At that point, I kind of knew I wanted to be in this world. I didn't realize what I wanted to do. You can be in service, you can be in politics, you can do different things. You don't need to actually be elected. And politics is timing. I actually I got back shortly after. I worked for the Centos Corporation.
Yes.
Then I got in the mortgage business after that. And I ran for the city council when I was 23. And actually, I lost. That's the reason I ever lost. Her name is Patricia Wilder. And I lost a close race. I was 23. I always experienced levels of success in life and never a big failure. But that was the most important, probably, event in my young life that ever happened. Because it was like a gut check moment. Like I always tell the story after like a month of heavy drinking. I had, in November, the beginning of November is essentially the election. You lose. You're really down on yourself for a while. And then in December, it's a new month. And what happens when I was running is I made all these relationships in all these neighborhood watch groups. And all these different people believed in me and they participated in the campaign. And so I had to decide if I really believed in this and I believed in fighting for these neighborhoods, Because if I did, I better go to these meetings again. And so at that point, I did, and I kind of really started running them. Yeah, it was a good gut check moment, it was a great experience. And I always say, when I talk to people, you learn more about yourself when you fail than when you succeed.
Yes,
and,
sure.
And that's kind of how, then I ran again, and I won. I was city councilor for 6 years, and then I was a legislator for 7, and became county executive.
And this whole, I think the whole kind of COVID thing puts you on more of a spotlight. I don't know, I'm not saying people didn't know who you were and know about you, but you became, I said, my dad, who lives in Oswego County, he listens when you're on, because he wants to know what's going on. And listens to you come on and there's breaking news, and you come on and do your state of the counties, and people listen. So
Yeah.
you became trustworthy.
Yeah.
I still get trolls, I don't know how to
I get trolls every day. But yeah, you know.
Do you kind of know that's what you're signing up for, though?
You do know, yeah,
I
I mean.
can't say that it doesn't still impact you.
Sure,
but-
you're human.
What happens when they connect to your family? Because I've seen some posts that are,
Yeah.
I've seen people, some trolls that are not very nice.
But you can't.
I can take
There's certain things.
Yeah.
I fixed skin after 2+ years of a global pandemic, right? So,
Do your kids get that 14, isn't old enough to know that you're the county executive?
oh, they know, yeah.
They kind of understand things.
It's their life, right? So my 5-year-old knows, right? My 5-year-old, so they're, but they're good, right? This isn't something, that certainly they didn't sign up for a lot of this, right? But at the same time, they get to experience things that other kids don't. And so, my son Andrew was with me at the Symphony Saturday night, for a fundraiser for Ukraine. Right, and so he's unfortunately all children are being impacted by what's happening, him included. But he got to sit there and he met a woman who just got out of Mariupol, Ukraine. And so for him, that's something that a lot of kids that meant a lot to him. But my kids, when their dad goes to a baseball game and I got to go throw out the first pitch, I get to bring them. So as much as they have to sacrifice because they don't have their dad or their dad's in the spotlight, and they understand, okay, when they're running negative TV commercials against me in my campaign, my kids saw those commercials, right?
That's tough.
So but they're,
There's another challenge you have. My brother and I, we grew up, my brother and I, really poor. Like, my mom, single mom at certain points, and food stamps. It's really embarrassing when you're a kid, and you're 12 years old, 13 years old. You gotta take the food stamp in, and I mean, you guys never did, but she's a private school kid. She with all that private school stuff. But,
so did I went to Catholic school.
Well,
Me too. No.
so we grew up poor, and then
Judgments, throwing their judgments.
we worked hard to get out of that, and we didn't have anything when we were a kid. So I read something where that said, Michele doesn't think I even read any books, but read something that said, when you have children, you want your kids to have 50% more than what you had. If you don't give your kids at least 50% more than what you had, then you feel like you're not helping them. But if you give them more than 50% of what you had, then you're enabling them. So my kid got 500% more than I had. And hopefully I think he's turned out to be a pretty good kid, but there's challenges to that. Do they work as hard? Do they do the things because maybe they have a little bit of privilege? My brother does very well, makes $1 million a year, and he's got kids that maybe have a little bit of entitlement. It's been challenging for them. So how do you keep your son from one Title I and going to politics? But,
I was gonna ask that, because for my kid, everybody is like, is he gonna be like an industry baby? Like, do you want your kids to be?
I want them to do what they want to do, what they're good at. And certainly, I think it'd be cool if they wanted to, one of them. I don't think it'd be Jack. My daughter's actually got a pretty good personality, and then Andrew, what we call him young champ. Who knows what he's going to do, right? We keep him out of Hillbrook, we'll be in good shape. But we'll see what they do. They have their emerging interests, and we'll see. I want them to be happy, be successful. But one of the things too, that to your point though, you're right? So one of the things, and my mom and dad might disagree with this, but this is at least what I remember. As a kid, there's I think 4 or 5 mouths to feed in my household growing up, right, at different times. And we never went to restaurants. Never. Really? Friday, they couldn't afford it. I think about it now. I mean, it's
that's the same with us,
right? And so we never went to restaurants. And so we always had, we always get pizza on Fridays, and then, usually, it would depend, like, some Twin Trees, the west side, a lot, right?
Twin Trees,
And
yeah.
so, but how do I overcompensate for that? Basically, I eat at restaurants probably 4 or 5 times a week. I never had it as a kid.
Right.
And so they.
You catch yourself doing
Yeah.
Yeah, and to, this industry, we have such a bond after what we all went through,
Yes.
right? So anytime we can give back, basically most of my paycheck goes back to this industry every.
Yeah, I hear you there.
So-
I'm still sitting on that. I did the gift card thing, so back when COVID was the first year of it, I knew that it was gonna be challenging before you would come up with the voucher program, which was great. So I decided just to do this Facebook thing, so I knew that restaurants weren't having a lot of gift cards purchased because they didn't know what was going on. So I went out and bought $50 gift cards from 50 different restaurants between Thanksgiving and Christmas. This was 2000. And held on to it, to wait. And then the voucher program come out. I was fortunate enough to get on the voucher here, and then the vouchers for your county. And
I did that program,
Yes.
that was my Christmas present.
Was the gift card?
Yeah, for you, yeah,
So,
yeah.
which is cool, and I wanted more of my friends to do it, they were doing it, and then, before you know it, I got a shitload of gift cards. So my wife is like, I tell Michelle, we can't leave our house without the gift cards. Like, we're not
I
going
literally
anywhere.
don't blame her, you spent so much.
So I went out, there were so many of them that I bought 2 recipe things to open up and have 8 or whatever. And this was back maybe 8 months ago, and she said, you gotta categorize these. So I put them in, and got a spreadsheet going and went down, and at the time, I think I had $8,700 worth of gift cards.
Wow.
So this past weekend, we went out, she carries them with her in her purse, put them in the car, I used them all weekend. We went out twice Friday, twice Saturday, once yesterday. I woke up, got home last night, and I looked, I'm here. I did a lot of it, how much do I got left? I still got $5,800 in gift cards. So.
Listen, I'm always available.
Yes, that's good to know. That's good to know.
Okay, so,
I know we're getting.
yeah, I just wanna know, like, so when you do go out, where are your favorite places to go?
So I'm on a keto diet, so
Still?
I
Are you gonna do that forever, or do you?
I think so.
It's way better for your body.
Yeah, and
Because you definitely lost weight from the beginning.
Yeah, I lost probably like 40 pounds, and then your energy level
Yeah.
is a lot higher. And yeah, physically, I used to, I played soccer my whole life in college and stuff, and I can do things I really, at a higher level than what I used to do when you get weight on. So that drives my menu, right? So if there's I eat a lot of steak,
Favorite state, Syracuse, where do you go?
So I hop around, right? So I've done what I did last week. I taught Monacles last week.
Yeah, I like that.
I did York.
Another great place, yeah.
Lemongrass actually really good steak.
Oh, I've never done, I wouldn't think of that for steak, yeah.
Yeah, I gotta get out to Scotch. I haven't done Scotch in a while. But yeah, I try to hop around, and try it out. So
I eat everywhere, so.
Yeah.
I'm not eating, my wife eats the fufu stuff, she eats like dirt, grass and twigs and stuff. But
yeah, but you do miss, like, you do miss the carb.
what do you miss the most?
Well, I love Italian food, and you really can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you can't have cheese, right?
Cheese you can have, as
Oh.
much cheese as you want.
Can't do the pasta.
We
You
eat
can't do
Joey's
the pasta,
fries,
yes, it's really sugar and carbs.
Oh,
So,
okay.
And asked, how do you, well, the biggest one was, when you see, so the county is now, you've been there for about 5 years, 4 years?
So we're, I think we're in our 4th year, yeah, so I ended 2018, I became county executive, and then,
So this November will be an election, or?
not this November, next year, yeah.
So you run again for county executive, I'm sure you,
Yeah.
everybody's like, they want you to be governor, but I don't know, what's your next, is this the edge, you spend the rest of your career here and then retire to the private sector, or do you go to the next?
Yeah, politics is timing, because you could be hot one day, and you could be cold the next
It's
day.
just that small.
Yeah, right? And so, and when part of the problem is when you get hot, everybody shoots at you. And there's,
I just don't know how,
it's hard to be.
how do you go back to that? Just, I don't know how you deal with people being critical.
It's okay if it's kind of fair game if you're on policy and stuff. It's tough when people are misrepresenting the facts, right? But what's tough about is after you go through kind of the trials and tribulations, if there's a community, and specifically, the stress on myself, everybody's sick, is like, you do after that, like, need to just be normal, like, you go
Well, how do you carve that
go out,
time
have a drink and stuff, and then, people kind of are watching and stuff, like, you worry a little bit about that, but.
Because you go out to a
Yeah,
restaurant, you're getting people come up to
I don't
you.
anymore, like, get nervous that people would take a picture or something, I don't
Yeah, like
anymore.
if you're sitting, I feel like I would be, because I am maybe interested in going into politics after I go to law school, but yeah, I know you would. I run against you. No, I feel like I would be nervous to have like drinks at a bar.
Yeah, I used to be, now I'm
Nah, you're not.
You just, at some point, you just have to be, okay,
Like,
I'm a person,
yeah.
and like, I got a pretty stressful job, and if I want to go see my friends, even when people, during the peak of the pandemic in 2020 and early 2021, people were still going out and doing things, I really couldn't, and so, now we got things where they are,
I got a text from somebody in Glens Falls, they're shutting them down again. Glens Falls over COVID. A buddy of mine owns Cooper's Cave Brewery out there in Glens Falls. He said, we just got shut down again because of COVID. What are you doing there? I said, we have the greatest county town ever.
Yeah.
We're not doing
I
that.
think.
Yeah, you gotta find balance and understanding now that these other impacts of the virus are probably more of a threat than the virus itself at this point, because it's a much more mild strain at this point. I'm not saying if people get sick, they can't have mobile because they can. But when you look at suicide, you look at opioids, when you look at mental health, and you look at absentee rates in schools from years of isolation, these are real problems. They're all pandemic triggers.
Why are they not, like, again, I don't mean to keep it late, when you come on, the first thing everybody wants to hear, I get on you get on Facebook and you see people post comments. What are the numbers? What are the numbers? How many COVIDs? How many COVIDs? How many? Why don't we talk about how many people killed themselves last week? How many opioid deaths there were? How many people went to the hospital? How many people died? Why do we have to always be COVID? Because there's just as many.
Yeah.
I've had people,
Mental health is not given as
it's not given as much. Maybe people would realize, make that the focus,
Yeah, I think people are, I won't say obsessed with it, but
How do we get off it?
it's impacted our lives so
I think it's
much.
like a PTSD sort of,
Yeah.
fear driven.
I do. There's
Which is why we should focus on mental health way more.
Yeah, there's the two really hard ends of the political spectrum. Are kind of and at different points. Each end was probably more right with what the concerns were. But right now, on the real far left right now, people are really kind of still kind of scared and want they think government got us through this. We provided leadership, we provided infrastructure. I can't be a respiratory virus myself. I can say I can do whatever I want, but people do that, right? But
you can't give your own opinion either. I watch sometimes, maybe I'm reading more into it, but you see people ask a question, like, there's certain reporters that'll ask, and I see it kind of inside going, yes, Jim, or whatever, and you answer a question, but you want to do in your private life, you can't do as a public official. You can't say you have to follow whatever's.
We give look at and on the far right, you have people that just activate it wasn't.
Which is on both sides.
Which is.
I heard a great quote the other day, which
So-
Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson said, somebody said, 10% of the people are way left, making noise. Way left, 10% way left. 10% of people are way right. That are making
Is that what
noise.
you fall?
I lean more to the right. And then there's 80% of the people in the middle. 80% of the people in the middle are doing what needs to be done, but they're not vocal. So you're only listening to 20% of the people because they're the only ones.
That's my Twitter handle, right? You can go on my Twitter handle, you'll see it.
I see Twitter stuff.
Yeah.
It's with everything though, like you're saying, it's the people who are the most, the
And I think
critics that are the loudest.
during COVID, I think people had look, people come in if they have a bad meal, they feel like they have to say something. And that's how it was pre-COVID. And now, if something's wrong, people feel like it's their responsibility to say something. They have to give their view to everybody. It's their responsibility to tell that table over there that I just had a bad experience here. I told her before, there's a great book, again, she doesn't think I read, called Service America, and they talk about how the average funeral in the United States is 200 people. The average wedding in the United States is 200 people. So the next person that walks through the door here, and every industry is services. You're providing a service in politics. So every industry is service industry. The next person that walks through that door, they know 200 people. well enough to go to your funeral or to the wedding, and they sit down and eat a meal, and they have a great experience, they might tell 5 people.
Right.
They have a shitty experience, they have 200 people to tell, and they feel like they have to tell. So it's difficult to manage that. How do you know? Everybody, it's got to be like Cheers. When you walk in, everybody goes, right! You know, everybody's happy to see it.
Yeah, it's
You know, it's not always.
you explained it very well, Paul, right there. That's what we do it, and that's why in a situation with some of these bigger projects.
Have you ever been threatened? Anybody ever? Really?
Yeah, during COVID, I got for a punch hit me.
Oh my God!
Really?
Oh my God! Justin stepped in and.
No, Justin wasn't there.
Okay.
Yeah, he was my bodyguard. Wasn't there that day.
Oh my gosh! Really? Who thinks it's okay? Oh my God! I just can't imagine that.
Yeah, and so we, like anything, certainly we've been threatened, and at times when the threats are credible, you know, you take different
I
precautions.
could never. Plus, there's photos out of me from college. I could never. So.
I could never imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just have 2 more questions.
Sure.
So for the future specifically, I know we talked about the aquarium, but for the restaurant, the food and beverage industry in Central New York, do you have is there anything that you want to see in the future, or things that you want to work towards, or what's your future look like for our industry?
Yeah, I think we want feedback from you, right? You know how we can be helpful and whatnot. I believe that we need to continue to grow our entertainment infrastructure, which provides more opportunities. We might do another voucher program, similar to what we did going into the holidays, to provide, hopefully provide more of a stimulus. But related to workforce, I know you guys have workforce challenges, and I think what we're going to see is that the eviction moratorium is up, right? So right now, people are starting with rent, courts are starting to go through this process. I think once this gets caught up, people on the sidelines who could be working are going to get back in the game.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, if you don't
It's
pay
rent.
rent, your number one cost is gone, right? And so that's, I think, going to help us in other industries with workforce, but certainly from workforce, training programs and stuff like that. Those are all things that we want to hear from the industry.
Okay, and then I asked what people wanted to be known for, and so Bud is passionate about local business. I like being a mom. Well, if you had one thing that you just wanted people to know, your number one, what do you think it would be?
My number one job is dad, right? So I look at dad. That's my most important job I have. But look, when you get this job and you have this unique job in this unique moment in history, at the end of the day, you do want to be remembered that you gave it 100% every day, and you left an impact, right? And sometimes it's an emotional impact. People relate to you and they'll miss you. Sometimes there's physical things, right, that you help champion, right? So, I thought about that. When you don't really, you're so busy with everything that you don't really realize the awesome opportunity that we get back in public. And so,
I love that. Yeah.
You got me. That was a hard one. I'm going to say one more thing if we got a second. Is how old are you? Oh, right. I can answer.
Oh, come on.
29, something like that.
I just turned 42. Yeah,
42. So Michelle's only 30. Going to be 30.
Gonna be 30,
I'm 58. I think if you've lived your whole life here, when you live your whole life in a certain area, like I have, and your circle becomes bigger, and you get older, then in that circle you lose people, and people pass, and I don't know if it's just because I'm more self-conscious or whatever, but in the last couple of years, I've lost a lot of friends that were unexpected. A heart attack here, somebody dying here, whatever. And it always seems like, because you get caught up in being busy, that you say, hey, I'm gonna catch that beer with you, or Michelle, we're gonna come over and have lunch, and you don't. I just lost a good friend last Friday, passed away, just retired, good guy Chuck, and I'm going to his services tonight, but the last couple of years, it's always like, yeah man, we're gonna catch that beer, and I'm gonna invite you to the next lunch, and we didn't do it. And I didn't get a chance to. Or my buddy Al, who passed away 2 years ago, you don't get that next chance. So, I mean, if you want to be remembered for something, man, there's days when you're tired or you're not doing, eat the big steak, buy the dessert, go on the date. Don't miss it because you don't know when you're not going to have it. And I don't know if you've lost anybody.
Sure, yeah, I have a large network, and certainly you lose people. And I think, one of the
Unexpected's tough.
Yeah, one of the things that I think makes it easier to lose that relationship, those personal relationships, is social media and technology, right? So your best friends in the world, I'm on a group text message with every day.
Yeah.
If I didn't have that, I'd probably see them more often. And
It's a good point, yeah.
Facebook, you literally see your friends every day. You see their families. But like, do you talk to them, right? So like,
It's a good point.
The way
Yeah,
you
oh
used
my
to
God,
it.
I never
So
thought.
like that, I think for we get busy.
You feel connected, but you're really not.
You're really not, and so I think that's something that people should really look at, and their close family and friends.
Well, I hope they do. Again, I'm going to Chuck's thing. I don't know any of his family. It's going to make me call somebody I can call and go and do lunch with them and do something. Because not that I can eat lunch any more than I already eat now, but.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank
We
you
really
so much.
appreciate your time.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for everything that you've done for the industry for the past 2 years. It's been nice to feel supported and heard, and I think that it's just strengthened our community. I mean, you hate to say that, but yeah, we really appreciate you being here.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for everything.